All right, we now have the opportunity to speak with Alexander Shulgin, Russia's permanent representative to the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. You're very welcome to the program. Now, we understand that a letter has been sent by Russia to the German representative to the OPCW asking for clarification on the Navalny case. Have you had any response to that?
Thank you very much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with RT. Picking up to your question, yes, we sent a letter to the permanent representation of Germany, referring to the Article 9, paragraph 2. We requested the Germans to provide us with exhaustive information about the results of analysis, blood samples, biological samples, in one word, all the materials in relation with this dossier. At the same time, I forwarded my personal letter to the Director General of the OPCW, Fernando Arias, briefing him about our verbal note to the Germans and asking him to make this available for all member states of the Chemical Weapons Organization. We took these steps. One of the reasons why we took these steps is that we didn't receive anything from the German side through bilateral channels. They didn't accept so far to respond to the requests by the Office of General Prosecutor of the Russian Federation. They are delaying this response, and in doing so, they are delaying the what is called the pre-investigation checking, screening, which is necessary to establish whether it is there are grounds, necessary grounds to launch full-fledged criminal investigation over the case in relation with the Russian citizen, which occurred on the Russian territory.
Now, Russia has long been asking Germany for evidence on the case, as you were just mentioning, coming from the Prosecutor General's office. Why do you think that information is being withheld?
Germans used various pretexts. First, they alleged the state secret. They seem to be afraid that if given the results of the analysis by German experts, the Russians will be able to see what equipment they had been using. Then they referred to the necessity to consult with the next of the kin of Alexei Navalny, and finally they put it as condition the consent by Alexei Navalny himself.
Germany says it sent all of its data to the OPCW, of which, of course, Russia is a member. And you were mentioning that you had submitted a request that all member states were allowed access to that data. Why do you think Moscow has been unable to access that material? And do you think your request for everyone to be able to look at that evidence will be complied with?
That is a very good question. As soon as the German government started speaking about its decision to shift the dossier to the OPCW, we tried to check with the technical secretariat, especially after the statement made by spokesperson of the German Defense Ministry, saying that all the materials had already been turned over to the OPCW. Technical Secretariat has strongly denied this information, saying they had received anything except for just a short letter. They kept silence also when we asked them to comment on the information by Spiegel magazine, saying that actually a team of the OPCW had taken samples in the Charité hospital, and the samples were analyzed by certified laboratories. And finally, on September the 14th, we asked the technical secretariat about the clarification in the light of the new statement made by the German government. And the answer was, you know, we have absolutely nothing to add to this German statement. Should you will to get more information about what we are doing with the Germans, you are invited, you are welcome to consult with the Germans. This was actually a vicious circle. Germans shifting the responsibility onto the OPCW, and the technical secretariat, the OPCW, passing the buck, rejecting this responsibility, saying you needed to deal with the German on the bilateral basis. That's why we decided to operate within the framework of the Chemical Convention, and this is the explanation why we took the steps I have already spoken about.
How much influence does Russia have when it comes to the OPCW? There is some tensions there.
Well, our country is very well respected within the OPCW. Russia is one of the founding states of the OPCW. We are known for our commitment to the Chemical Weapons Convention. We are fulfilling all our obligations in good faith. We completed the destruction of all chemical arsenals earlier than planned back in 2017, which was certified by the OPCW. But there is also the reality, you know, the United States and their allies possess a dominant position in the government, in the governing body of the OPCW, which is Executive Council. At least 20 countries are bound by NATO and EU discipline, so they are not allowed to act on their own, and they are supposed to follow strictly the instructions coming from Washington and Brussels.
We've heard today that Navalny has left the hospital. He's been discharged. Are you surprised at how well he seems to have recovered, given that Novichok is supposed to be a highly fatal nerve agent?
First of all, let's wish Alexei Navalny speedy and full recovery. He appears to have lost some weight. There is a tired look on his face, but otherwise he does not appear to have been seriously affected. And definitely this does not fit the symptoms of the exposure to the deadliest nerve agent. To illustrate what I'm saying, let me remind you of what happened when it was 3 years ago in Kuala Lumpur. There was this attempt, the murder of the person believed to be the half-brother of the North Korean leader. I guess many of us saw the video. A girl jumping from behind this person, throwing the cloth over the face, and Kim Jong-un was just shocked. He didn't seem to understand what happened to him. Bewildered, he walked to the police station, seemingly to complain about what happened. But once in there, he simply collapsed and died in just 30 minutes. And it was the poisoning by the VX agent, which is known to be much less toxic than the nerve agents from Novichok Group. So my answer is definitely this is not the pattern which could be explained by the exposure to the deadliest nerve agent.
Well, exactly. And Navalny's supporters actually released a video showing them in his hotel room in Tomsk just after the alleged poisoning, where he was staying before he got on the plane to come to Moscow. And they were collecting his belongings, including a water bottle that was then passed on to the German authorities. And that was where it was said they have found Novichok. They weren't wearing any protective suits. All they had were gloves. I don't believe they even had masks on. How is it that they weren't affected by the Novichok if it was present?
This is yet another riddle of the whole affair. Indeed, we see people on the video. They do not wearing any protective equipment, let alone hazmat suits required when you are faced with such kind of situations. They seem to handle without any hesitation these notorious, famously known bottle, which allegedly had been smeared with the deadly poison agent. Definitely, it does not look as plausible, not plausible at all. I can't help but draw some parallels. 3 years ago, there was the case known as Han Sheikhoun attack in Syria. And there was photos and videos of freedom fighters posing near the crater left by the aerial bomb, and the crater still filled with sarin. Freedom fighters, the so-called freedom fighters, smiling, barefooted, no gloves, not protective equipment at all, no exposure to the sarin there in the crater. So my guess, this is a staged video.
Moscow has been urging Western powers not to politicize this whole story, but given who's involved in this case, was that ever possible of not happening?
Yes, you're right. We are saying let's not politicize. Let our specialists, both Germans and Russians, discuss, find a solution, find explanations. Let's do it in a professional way. But unfortunately, hardly a day goes by without appeals, without calls, without Western countries calling, pleading for the punishment of Russia or the Russian Federation. What is at stake seems the Nord Stream 2 project. Clearly, it becomes overtly hysterical with people asking to all kinds of sanctions, the freezing of this Nord Stream project. Honestly, I don't know whether we will be able to overcome this high degree of politicization. Anyway, we will see how things will play out during the forthcoming Executive Council, which is scheduled to be held on October the 6th. My understanding that providing goodwill, we will be able to overcome all the hardships, and we call upon member states, especially Germany, but also France and Sweden, to be committed to their obligations under the Chemical Weapons Convention and provide necessary legal assistance like it is stipulated in various provisions of the Chemical Weapons Convention.
We've been speaking with Russian permanent representative to the OPCW, Alexander Shulgin. Thank you for your time and your comments.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Goodbye.